Welcome back to the Two Months Podcast, presented by Boston Pizza. I am your host, Joshua Marshall, and we have a good cast tonight on a nice Monday night, going into a busy week of the NHL season. And we have Phil Stockley back with us. Phil, how's it going?
I've been better, buddy. And I know we're gonna get into it, but uh, I don't know. I think that's a tough loss for the Flames tonight. Especially the way it all went down. I'm not very happy about it, but you know what, buddy? Other than that, spring's just around the corner. Some good hockey's coming up. We're getting into the playoffs here, getting into some good playoff races, and looking forward to some hockey chat tonight. So, doing pretty good, buddy.
Yeah, no, that's got to take the positive there. The health is good. The team will get the team will should get going here. So we'll get into that very, very shortly. And our next guest is his first time ever joining us, and he is going to be a staple and a regular on the pod. And we'd like to welcome Nick to the Two Months Podcast family. Nick, how's it going?
Pretty good. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Yes.
Uh, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, we're definitely looking to have you part of the team here and jump into some great content and some you got some great insight of what's going on in the not only the NHL circuit but all the other leagues. So looking forward to picking your brain on where things stand, all hockey wise, and it's fun to add some good people on to the pod. And we still have Clay, we still have Brody, we still have Trevor as in the circle too. So there's pretty much five mutts here, but we're the two mutts. But and then yeah, having you a part of some of our NHL guests and players and stuff, that's going to be kind of cool as well too. Down the road, how are you excited to kind of be a part of this journey that Phil's been a part of before and continue to be a part of, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very passionate about hockey. I love the sport, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a part of this. So
Yeah,
anytime I get to chat hockey is a good time.
it is for sure. So yeah, I guess we'll get to the kind of here and now before we get into some minor hockey talk, which we will definitely get into kind of where things stand in there. So kind of a little tease. I don't know where you guys are. We'll tease this to start and then we'll get to it second, but it sounds like the boundaries are going to open up starting next year. So I wonder if that's going to be an interesting segue into terms of where players go. And it used to just be what draw zone you were in. Now it seems like that's going to kind of open up, but we'll get a little bit more into that and how all that looks or sounds or seems like for some of the families. But then I know Phil, you're part of the minor hockey circuit out in New Sarepta too, and how things went there. But obviously the Calgary Flames wasn't the effort that they thought. It kind of got away from them. They kept battling back. I feel like that Morgan Frosco kind of changed the momentum of the game tonight. But what did you think of the game tonight, Phil? And where's your level of concern at as a Flames fan going down the stretch with 60 more games to go for the Sea of Red?
Well, it's kind of, and I've said it before. It's drawing like so many similarities to um that season where the Flames were, Derek Wales called them the find a way Flames, where they would just find a way to win these games, and they were always kind of hanging around a playoff spot. And um, another similarity is, what's was that 2016 Bosco when Gaudreau kind of came in and they were better than they should have been and they made the playoffs?
I think this season was if it was 15-16 or 14-15. It was around that.
Yeah,
That was his
but
first year with the team, I believe, because he came and played the one game in
the
Vancouver.
one game,
Yeah. And
and then yeah, it was the final season, and like even I was just saying to Buddy today, like, the similarities. Like, remember Giordano tore his bicep and he was out,
yeah, that was in New
and he was
Jersey.
their captain at that time. Backlund out now, but um, I just the thing is that the difference is then you had a kid, Johnny Gaudreau, who was putting the puck in the net, and that line could put the puck in the net. This team cannot put the puck in the net. And the reason they're where they are, and I will stand by it 100%, is Dustin Wolf. this kid has come in and salvaged this season because this team cannot score goals. Um, I'm at the point now, like I kind of feel like I would personally like to see them drop down into that top 10 pick.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, yeah, like obviously every time you watch them, you want to see them win. You want to see them get to the playoffs, but what's the whole, I just don't see this team going deep in the playoffs, even if they were to sneak in. Old Daryl Sutter's line a few years ago, whoever who did he have that team playing, and he's like, oh, it'll be a waste of 8 days.
That was Colorado, right? Anyone else?
Yeah, exactly. Which, we can go to Colorado too, because they're looking like they're pretty good this year. Because Calgary played them the other night, and I just saw a post today about Landeskog kind of buzzing around on the ice. So,
Yeah, he's looking good. We'll see how that goes.
but yeah, no, the game tonight, definitely uh, that offside called goal was called no goal. I do truly think that was the turning point in the game. It was the beginning of the end for the Flames tonight. Um, I see you got a little shit-eating grin on your face because you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And what
Well,
did you
you're
think of the game?
we'll get to Nick's thoughts first on that, but yeah, we'll definitely. I don't know. We'll see where it goes for Toronto. Obviously, some of their guys got off the schneid, but in terms of what Phil said, Nick, what's your thoughts of the Flames and what you saw tonight and what you have seen so far this year with that group as well?
So I'm not going to lie to you. I looked for the game. I did not know it was on Prime, so I could not find it. So
Yeah,
I'm that guy. I'm that guy who can't find the games.
no
Um,
worries.
but I will.
Rob,
You know
Rob
what?
Brown's the same way. He hates stuff that's on Prime. He was bitching about it on his podcast the other day too. So Rashad was giving it to him. He's like, "You cover NHL for a living. You don't have the NHL package or Prime." He's like, "No, it should be free." But anyway, sorry.
No, all good. You know what? It's funny. Like Phil brought up Dustin Wolf, and him and I had this conversation the other day. And I'm a firm believer that goaltending is the most important position in hockey, and I really think that Dustin Wolf should win the Calder this year, just based on what he's done.
Mhm.
He's really, I mean, he's like I've had the opportunity to watch him since he was 14, and just how far he's come, how good he's been, despite, everybody talked about his size. You guys talked about it the other night after the game, where, you're talking about he was like the fourth last pick in the draft. And he's just overcome so many obstacles, and he's just awesome. He's so much fun to watch. I really truly believe that he should win the Calder this year. I don't think he will, because I think Lane Hudson probably is going to get it, just with how many points he has as a defenseman. But Wolf's been awesome, and regardless of how this season finishes for Calgary, I think the future is bright there because they have such a good goalie.
Mhm. He is. He's going to be a 10, 15-year kind of staple in that net, in my opinion. And uh, I know we've seen what UC Saros does, and obviously Wolf looks up to Jonathan Quick, and we see what he's done, and he's still going to play at the age of 40 after just signing that extension last week with the New York Rangers, and the fact that it's just his compete level. It's interesting to kind of be there at times when I can, in terms of like those morning skates and what he does with Jason LaBarbera, and just the extra work he puts in at practice and at morning skates, and just in trying to be as ready as possible when his number is called. So he's fun to watch. I just think in terms of, if they get in, he probably might be more inconsidered, but I agree. Lane Hudson's been pretty good there, and Mitch Goff's been good. There's a lot of good candidates for sure, but he is the sole reason probably why they're in where they are. And also, I do have a soft spot for Ryan Huska and that coaching staff to get what they got out of those guys. It's just unfortunate Sharon Govich is playing the way he is right now, in terms of, a guy that has been a pretty decent goal scorer. But like Huska said at the press conference yesterday, in terms of, this is when he came in, he was like this, trying to find his way, and now he's trying to find his way again. But it's hard to click that offense and get it going when it really hasn't been there all year. And just like Phil and I were talking earlier on the highway today, it's just like we kind of even forget that Anthony Mantha was a part of this team and tore his ACL. And that guy's a goal scorer. And they lost that very early on in the year, and they didn't really replace it. So that's going to be a tough one to go from that. And I'm bullish on them, and still I did pick them at the start of the year to make the playoffs. So I'm hoping they would prove me right, but they do have a tough. They have a lot. They have extra more games in hand, but they got to start winning those games, and they can't get into a tough losing streak here. And now they go to all the New York teams. It's not much travel. You set up one shop at one hotel, so that's the good part about playing in New York when you play all those teams there. But um, hopefully they can pull it out. I don't know if you want to add more to that, Phil, in terms of seeing where you would go. Is there lineup changes, Phil? Would you like to see kind of the lines changed a bit? Where are you at with the line combination? Do you think you can generate more offense in terms of that?
I liked like the other night. I know you were at the game versus Colorado, and I did feel when when he was trying to like mix things up, you obviously saw a different team in the third period. I like the fact that he elevated Morgan Frost and he demoted Sharon Govich. Like, and it is tough because last year, you're looking at a guy like Sharon Govich and you're like, Conroy absolutely won that trade.
Yeah.
You know, because he's ditching salary, he's getting a player, and Sharon Govich was unreal last year, lights out, and um, I don't know what's changed. Like, what's changed in his game, in your opinion?
I would say confidence. Just seeing that, I don't know what are you seeing, Nick, in terms of that too? Are you seeing a lack of confidence in Sharon Govich and in trying to carry the puck? And would in your experience of watching and playing the game, Nick, is it terms of being on a different position at forward? Sometimes you're at center, sometimes you're at wing, you're on left wing, you're on right wing. Uh,
Like inconsistencies, right?
yeah, would you look at that as an eye of things, Nick, in terms of where you're at?
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing is like he was hurt early in the year.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's hard, especially after the season that he had last year. You come into this year, you get hurt early, you don't really have a chance to get your feet wet. And you know what, then when you're finally back in the lineup, it's really hard to get up to speed sometimes. And switching positions would definitely be part of it. But in a position like his, where like I said, he had such a good year last year. There's probably that added pressure on it that he put on himself too, where he probably felt coming back from injuries, like, okay, I gotta get going here. I gotta be going. And sometimes those guys are so hard on themselves that they get in their own heads, and it's really hard for them to get out of it. And you know what? Like he's probably just hasn't really had a chance to have a good reset this year mentally. And maybe that'll come over the summer. And next year, he'll get back to where he was the year before, because I mean, by all of, the standards that he set for himself last year, he's definitely underperforming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and try to get at that mix of a line. And I don't know, it's obviously Kuznetsov was there, but it was kind of a tough go for him. So obviously losing a Russian counterpart in terms of that. But yeah, I just think once he gets that confidence going, I think at times like he had that shorthanded goal not too long ago, and I thought that was going to jolt him, but it didn't, unfortunately. So what are you seeing, Phil? What do you want to see more out of him? Because I think if the generate of offense generates out of him and gets through him, then I think the team in some which way is better. Like, Huberto's had a pretty good year. Kadri's had a good year, but you're leaning on those guys too much at times. And it's tough to lose Backlund. Like I think more and more now these last couple of games, the people are starting to get an appreciation. I know that was the conversation we had in the media room the other day over dinner. Is just some of the guys were saying, yeah, he hasn't been the same player, but it's like, well, yeah, maybe offensively the numbers aren't there for Backlund, but the importance of that safety blanket of getting out there and line matching too, because I don't think they lose that game against Vancouver if Backlund's in the lineup. I think they find a way to close that out because they would be able to get that favorable match, but unfortunately he got hurt. And as anything we know about Michael Backlund, and again, it's his birthday today, good friend of the pod, but when he's on his game and he plays through anything, it's for him to not play is pretty serious in terms of the condition that he's in. But what are you seeing, Phil, in Sharon Govich's game as well?
Well, just to touch on Sharon Govich, like I just think the guy needs to trust his shot more, like because that guy can rip the puck and he's got an amazing shot, but he's just, you know, it probably goes back to like what you're saying, like confidence. Like he's
It's interesting you say that
maybe
'cause
he's
there was a play on the power play. He was on the right wing. He's obviously a lefty. He was on his one timer position. He had a good shot in the first period and he didn't take it. I was very surprised at that. And I wonder if
yeah,
that is that
yeah.
lack of confidence that you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's probably like what I would say, and I'm sure the coaching staff is telling him the same thing. Trust your shot, shoot more, because like I know like Huska's done the same to said the same thing to Jonathan Huberdeau. Shoot the puck more. You got a good shot, shoot the puck, and Huberdeau's having a good year. He's producing this year, which is like really nice to see, right?
Yeah,
Um, touching on Backlund, like Backlund's your best defensive center you got.
correct.
He's your best shutdown center you've got. And you look at like even like I'm not starting like making any speculations or anything, but it's like a guy like Backlund, like any team would love a guy like Backlund
Mhm.
because he's a defensive center. He's responsible. He can win faceoffs. Who do the Flames put out there on important faceoffs?
It's him, yeah.
Yeah, it's him. So, um,
And
and yeah,
Huska
he's taken
says
on
it. He
that role
trusts
as the
him in
captain. So.
yeah, and Huska says it in every interview. It's he trusts him in every situation on that ice, right? And when you don't have a player like that, Nick, what does that do for a team? Like what kind of things can other players do to try to step up? They obviously like one of the things I thought was interesting with Morgan Frost, where he played good against Colorado. He talked about he's never been given that opportunity ever in his career. And that game against Colorado, he was given it and he flourished. He did actually really good. But it's doing that every single night and how hard it is to be that player every single night. In your terms, Nick.
Th this should be good because Nick is actually a Philadelphia Flyers fan.
So, I mean, honestly, Morgan Frost is right. He was never really given, I mean, he was given an opportunity in Philadelphia, but the last few years with John Tortorella, I mean, they hit, bumped heads a lot. And I mean, the reason he's not there anymore is probably because of more than anything, John Tortorella. And you know what? I'm glad to see that Frost is getting some opportunities there, but he's when you lose a guy like Michael Backlund, who really is, he's like you guys said, he's, the coaches said he's their most important center. He puts him in all situations. If you don't have another guy in your lineup that can do that, then it's got to be a collective with everybody else. Everybody else has to kind of pick it up and be like, okay, figure out the stuff you can do your best to replace that guy with personally. Like, Kadri's got to get, if he's going to be the guy taking those big draws, he's got to be winning them,
Yeah.
right? Morgan Frost, if he's taking faceoffs in the power play, you got to win them. Sharon Govich, same thing. So if it's everybody else, it's got to be a collective effort to pick up those pieces and try and you're not going to be able to replace them one to one, but if everybody can figure out a way to contribute, then that's what you have to do. And I mean, like I said, you're not going to be able to replace a guy like Backlund. He's your captain, and hopefully his injury, the players can rally around it and be like, okay, let's give this guy another shot to play some important games when he does come back. Um, you know, and just be there for him.
Yeah. And being out week to week is tough. Anything more you want to touch on the Flames? I know Rasmus Anderson got off the schneid there, Phil, and you were kind of, a little bit hard on him and wondering what's going on with him. But what did you see in his game tonight that um, kind of see his confidence coming back in terms of it, or where are you at there? Obviously, a tough loss still, but we're
Well, I hope so, and I will say this, and that was a beautiful pass by Huberto.
oh, it's crazy what this guy can do. It's and you're seeing it like the minor hockey league level in terms of like how those kids are shifting their sticks in terms of the deceptive plays and getting it around um, other players in terms of that. It's fascinating to see that they're doing it at that level and at the NHL level too. And Obviously, the NHL
Yeah.
is much of a surprise. Like we all know how great Huberto is as a passer, but it was just good. I liked how they kept going back to that during the replay on the broadcast in terms of look the way his eyes were scanning the ice, and that's just a huge thing too. You got to be scanning.
Well, and that's like because everybody thought he was going to hit Kadri there, and then like he saw Anderson coming in late. I actually thought that shot got blocked, but it actually hit the pillow in the back of the net. It was, when he went and did his little stare down in the corner. So
Yeah,
I hope it turns things around for him. It's one goal. Um,
yeah,
Defensively tonight, I don't know. Um,
yeah. It's
I
very rare they get beat this bad, right? It doesn't happen too often, and
right.
but Toronto was kind of due for a game like this as well, and same with Austin Matthews. But yeah, that was pretty evident that the Flames don't get beat that badly that often.
Yeah. I got nothing else on him right now. So yeah, we're good.
All right, Nick, you want?
Maybe next time when I'm a little more calm.
Yeah, I think you're pretty calm tonight. Um, Nick, we'll move over to the Oilers since we do a lot of Alberta stuff here. We'll just kind of get your thoughts. It's been one of those years here. There was a bad start, good middle, and this last stretch. To me, I don't know exactly what to think of this team. I know listening to like Ray Ferraro today, he was talking about he thinks they're back. He thinks they're on the stride again to finish this season strong and maybe finish first in the Pacific. But I don't know where that is at. I think it's definitely on a collision course for round 4 years in a row against the LA Kings in the first round. But Nick, what are you seeing from the Oilers in some positive or some negative, and how do you see this team shaping out? And once the playoffs get going, we can get guys like Trent Frederick back and obviously Evander Kane and some other guys too at home as well. And where are you at with the Oilers?
I think that, for me, they're a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, Trent Frederick and Evander Kane, assuming they come back and they're going to be the players, that, we understand them to be, I think they're going to add some good playoff competitive hockey, some grit, some physicality that this team has not had all year. They're not a very physical team. And there's always, they don't defend against the rush very well. Some of the same things that have plagued them from last year. They are playing better. Kudos to them. They've only allowed 2 goals in their last 2 games, and they seem to have straightened things out a little bit. Um, you know, but I still, I'm not with Ray Ferraro just yet saying that they're back. I think that their mindset is probably getting better. They got 4 games here coming up at home. In, they play Winnipeg and they play Dallas. Those are going to be 2 big games for them. They played Dallas right after the trade deadline, and I thought that was going to be the turnaround for them. And then 2 days later, they lose to Buffalo, and they lose to New Jersey, and then they squeak out against the Islanders and the Rangers. But I think those 2 games coming up here at home are going to be huge for them. And I think it'll be a really good test to see exactly where they're at. Um, I'm not. I don't want to bet against them because when you have 2 of the best players in the world, it's a fool's errand to bet against those guys. But I'm not. I'm not claiming they're back just yet.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll see what happens once they get all these guys back. It's going to be they need to get healthy, and they need to kind of figure out where they're doing with lines. Like Skinner again gets these little tastes with McDavid, and then they kind of take it away from him at times, and so it's kind of interesting that he's kind of been the in and out of the lineup guy, where his overall numbers and his analytic numbers are pretty good. So, and in terms of that, I think they're going to need that. Like, and yeah, the physicality they're going to get once they get everyone back will be good to see. I know Jones got in and hasn't been. He had that one good game, but I know it's just that consistency. It's very hard to get through in terms of that. Phil, where are you at with the Oilers and their overall season so far? And do you believe in the goaltending going down the stretch and into the playoffs?
Um, Goaltending, I'm unsure. It's just the whole tail of the tape with the Oilers, right? They they seem very streaky this year. Um, so chances are they're probably going to go on a bit of a run here, and as our own Brody McIntyre would say, a heater.
Hmm.
Hashtag Oilers heater coming on here, but I don't know. It's one of those things where I agree with what Nick said, right? Like you got two of the best players in the world, and when they're clicking and going, it's even people around like the minor hockey rink when the Oilers are playing, it's like Oilers score probably Draisaitl McDavid, probably McDavid Draisaitl. So like I just wonder like where their depth is at.
Well, Kane will give them an added boost, that's for sure. Trent Frederick was before this season was a 35 goal scorer over the last 2 years. So you're probably going to get some goals from him, and he's obviously a playoff player in terms of that. And so that's going to add some there. But you also got to be mindful and give Frederick some time to get back up and running. It's been a bit of time since he's been off, and and any injury that you come off from, and all the players are moving at a hard pace right now going down the stretch. He probably needs a grace period of at least 2 games, and obviously it's a new surroundings. It's never played for this organization and this before, so but being there, trying to learning some of the tendencies. Not that he's on the ice at practice, but he's definitely probably a part of some film sessions when he's at home. He hasn't been on the road with the team yet, but they're definitely bullish on seeing where he's at in terms of that. And just a quick shout out, we got Trent Frederick a vehicle today, thanks to our friends at Genesis. Hooked him up with a vehicle, and we have an event with Trent Frederick tomorrow at the Oilers morning skate. So stay tuned to our social media channels there. I think there'll be some news on that. I think Gene Principe is going to do a story on the broadcast too. So the Principe puns. Interesting guy that only does that out of any other broadcast. But I know some of our listeners kind of have some ups and downs or chuckles with that. But anyways, yeah, TJ over at Genesis hooked up Trent Frederick today, so thanks for him, friend of the pod, and getting him set up with a vehicle. But we'll see how that goes, and anything we can do. Obviously, we are Elaine Wall Kleins in RSG Hockey, so that's the agency we work with in terms of our stuff, and so that's where Trent is. But we also have other podcast or other agencies help us out too. But getting him going will be up and running. Where do you see the offense coming from, Nick, going into this playoff stretch for the Oilers? Is it something that they could figure this out before the season ends and go into the playoffs, or is that going to be the lack of what they have in terms of just can't be Connor and Leon every night? Because, Hyman's not had the great year, and same with Nuge. But once the playoffs start, everyone starts at zero. I guess that's the good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't see any real consistent depth scoring. I haven't seen it all year, and I don't suspect we're going to see it now. Hyman missed the other day because he was hurt. Nugent Hopkins, who's usually a whiz on the power play, hasn't been as good this year, obviously. And after, obviously Draisaitl's, he's likely going to win the Rocket. He's probably will win the Hart, might win the Art Ross. Like he's going to be involved in all that stuff. But after him and McDavid, I don't know. I don't know where the goals are going to come from. Like, we talked a little bit about Evander Kane. I mean, by the time he gets back in the lineup, it's going to be 10 months since he's played a game. I don't know how much offense he's going to be bringing at that point. You hope that Trent Frederick's going to bring something, but I think that there's a lot of disappointment, with some of the moves that they made this past off season, with guys that they've brought in and guys that they expected more from that just haven't brought it. And, we're almost at game 70. And if they're not scoring yet, I don't know if they're going to get that consistent scoring from those guys that they really need it from.
Yeah. What's your over and under in terms of how many starts Pickard gets in the playoffs? Is he a guy, because we saw him pretty much save that series in Vancouver when he got in. Do you think we see a repeat performance of that? He's had a pretty good year for a guy that's a backup that's pretty much under $1 million. Nick. But where do you think, or do you think Skinner kind of figures it out and pretty much runs with it in the playoffs? I don't see all this. Like I think LA gives them a harder time, man. If LA gets home ice, they've only lost 3 times at home this year, and if they get home ice in that series, I don't know if it's the same thing that we've seen before, where the Oilers just roll over the LA Kings. But where are you at in terms of the goaltending going in, and do you think Pickard sees a lot of playoff time here?
I don't. I,
Yeah.
I think that if they were worried about Stuart Skinner, I think they would have tried to maybe do a little bit more in goaltending at some point throughout the year. I mean, Colorado has two different goalies now than they started the year with, right?
Yeah.
So the opportunities were there to bring in guys. Whether it was at the deadline or before, you know, those opportunities were there. I think that they're gonna roll with Skinner. And I mean, you're right. Like LA, they've only lost 3 times in regulation at home this year, and those games like LA plays, fairly low scoring hockey. They have 186 goals for and 172 against. Like not a ton of goals are scored in their games,
Yeah.
and Darcy Kemper's playing pretty well. And I don't think it's going to be an easy series if that's who they do end up playing. And those kind of series are where you need those depth goals, and I don't know if they're going to get them. So I think Edmonton really needs to get home ice advantage because I do think playing at Rogers is huge. And yeah, back to your question though, I don't think I would be shocked if unless something really drastic happens, like what happened last year in the playoffs in the Vancouver series. I think we're going to see Skinner. I think they're just going to roll him.
Yeah, you're definitely probably right on that. Phil, you want to finish up on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you got to kind of stick with your guy, which I know they tried to do that last year in the playoffs, and like you said, Pickard probably did steal them that series against Vancouver, but yeah, like I would not be too excited to play LA again because I
Well, the
don't know
Kings will be a motivated bunch because it's been a rough goal for them.
exactly. Yeah,
They've definitely
they
got a
got to
lot
be getting kind
better.
of sick of losing to the Oilers, right?
Yeah, and I wonder you got to wonder if the dam will break on that, Phil. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. It could be a really interesting series. So
Yeah, yeah, they're a good team for sure. All right. Obviously, some NHL news and notes. You guys all probably saw the video of Gabriel Landeskog. Move over to some NHL other stuff here, but how big is that going to be if he can go for the playoffs here? I don't know if he'll get in before the regular season, Nick, but that video looked pretty good. He was in those rushes and he was in those drills and he was moving around pretty good. That is going to be a big boost if they get back him in the lineup. I know it's been 2 years since he's been off, but if somehow he can get in and make a difference, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even just for those guys, like you look at the sort of the playoff stretch there, the playoff run here that they're the stretcher that they're going with in, facing Winnipeg and Dallas. Just having him out there involved in those drills, that's got to be a boost for those guys. And you know what? It just mentally helps them. But if he's back, even if he's not, like you said, it's been 2 years, just having that guy back in the lineup, just adding a little bit more depth to that roster. I don't think there's going to be a ton expected of him, when he first comes back, obviously, but just having him there, I think would be huge. I mean, that's a major pickup after the trade deadline that most teams don't get that opportunity, right? So I think that would be really really big for them, especially like I said with the battles that they're gonna have. Like they're gonna have to go through Winnipeg and Dallas in the first 2 rounds. They're gonna need all hands on deck.
Yeah, they are. Phil, that was a good game yesterday of those two teams playing each other. Went to overtime. Cale Makar scores his 25th of the season. Just unreal what he's doing. I thought the interesting part at the end of the game, the board made some comments. And I think it's interesting sometimes when a head coach makes comments about the officiating or lack of calls. But friend of the podcast, and Matt Duchesne, was very vocal after the game about the lack of calls and maybe lobbying at some point here when these two teams will play each other in the playoffs in round one. what was your thoughts on kind of just that game and that matchup that could be? And Colorado is getting some of the favorable calls, and Dallas trying to lobbying for some series favor to be a favorite maybe in that series. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's just a shame that those two teams are going to play each other in the first round. But it'll be a
Well, that's where I was gonna go with this. It's this playoff format, right? And there's been players and teams that have been calling to change it up because yeah, you got two juggernauts going at it in the first round almost every single year now, and teams that probably deserve to go further in the playoffs and will not go further in the playoffs because one team needs to move on, and unfortunately, one team needs to go home. Uh, Dallas and Colorado are probably both Cup favorites this season. They're both good. They've both loaded up this year to go far in the playoffs. And, just going back to the Landeskog thing, like, earlier in the podcast, we were talking about Michael Backlund and how the Flames losing their captain for a few games is, this guy's been out for 2 years. Like, think of the emotional boost a guy like Nathan McKinnon's going to take from seeing his friend and captain step on the ice for a game. And it's like, man, like when Nate McKinnon gets going and he's rolling in a game, he's almost unstoppable.
Mhm.
There was debate a couple years ago, like it's like who's better, Nate or Connor?
Well, in Calgary the other day when those two teams were playing each other, it was pretty evident that the players in both locker rooms were saying that he is the best player in the National Hockey League, and his last year and a half resume says that. Would you agree, Nick? What's your thoughts on McKinnon in that conversation versus McDavid and others?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously you can probably it depends on who you really like more. I
Yeah,
think it's, we're just at a time where there's so many good players that,
we used to
you
enjoy
know,
them all, right? Yeah.
just enjoy it. Like I cheer for a team that has like zero good players. So like when you get an opportunity to watch these other guys, whether it's McKinnon or McCarr or McDavid or Draisaitl, like those guys are all unbelievable hockey players. And we're just living in a time where the game is so much fun to watch that I just try and sit back and enjoy it and not worry too much about who I think is better, because I think you can make an argument for any one of those guys.
Yeah. Let's move over to. So any guys want to jump anything else on that? We'll move over.
I just wanted to say, so you guys were talking about the wild card playoff format. If they had it the other way, the old way, I think it would be Edmonton and Colorado in the first round right now. So
Uh,
either way, there's a big time matchup.
yeah, that is true. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you talked to a lot of the players. I think they're very vocal about how they want to see this format, and obviously the NHL GM meetings are going on in Florida over the next few days. So I wonder what's going to come out of that. I didn't see anything today, but I know today was day one of three. Um, I wonder if that format comes back up again. I know the players are lobbying for it, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's move over to the our WHL report, sponsored by our friends at Sheena Boychuk Realty. Realty by Design, your design approach to real estate. Reach out to Sheena Boychuk if you're looking to sell your home or buy your home, and tell her that the Two Mods podcast sent you. Blake Fiddler, he is having himself a year. Obviously, Connor McKenna too. What a year he's having, and he's not eligible till the following NHL entry draft. But I think it's 38 points, a consecutive point streak McKenna has over in Medicine Hat. But Vernon Fiddler and Blake Fiddler, friends of the pod, Oil King player, nice goal he scored the other night in Calgary. Nick, what do you see out of his game that is putting him in a position where he is ranked 24th in the Central midseason NHL scouting draft rankings here?
Well, I mean, obviously the size jumps out. 6'4", 200-pound defenseman, right hand shot. Every team in the NHL wants those guys. He's got 9 goals this year. He's up to 31 points, which is, he's about a half a point a game. At 17 in that league is really good for a defenseman. He's big. He's really good defensively. He's a really good transporter of the puck up the ice. And I just think, he's a guy that's, probably going to go mid to somewhere in later in the first round, maybe early second, depending. Because he's 24th, I think, in North American skaters.
Yeah.
So he'll probably end up being a first rounder at the end of the day, and I think he's like I said, he's just a good player. He's a really good player. So.
Yeah. Phil, have you seen much of him? And I know we posted some of the highlights on the podcast account, but have you what you've seen? I know you got to meet Vernon and the family as well too. But your thoughts on kind of what you've seen from him, and you're a right shot defenseman just like he is. So
Oh yeah, me and Blake are just one in the same,
hey,
buddy.
you guys wear number three too. So you guys,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
No, I agree with everything Nick just said. Like size, right hand D man, very very hard to come by. Even like watching, I like for the with the minor hockey teams that I'm involved in, you go to the Oil King games every year, and the kids go to the Oil Kings game because it's an affordable hockey game. You can kind of take the whole family to, and even just from like watching Blake, like when he first came into the league, to I just went to the game a couple weeks ago, and it's like even like the kid, like he is like a true leader on that team. Like he's always talking, he's always communicating, and he's always just like driving the play when he's on the ice. So yeah, tons of growth with his time with the Oil Kings, and when he does go in the first round, it's going to be well earned for him.
yeah. It definitely will be. Yeah, and what's your thoughts on McKenna, Nick, in terms of what he's been able to do? And is it just kind of that one of those things of just enjoying this, great for the league? And I guess a lot of the big things, I know Elliot Friedman said on his podcast, he's like, it is going to be very interesting if he's back in Medicine Hat next year. I just wonder where that conversation goes as well, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin's another kid that I've had the pleasure of watching since he was 14, and even at that point, you knew that he was really, really something special. He's just, I mean, he's head and shoulders so good above, all the other kids who are draft eligible this year and next year, and pretty much the majority of the Western Hockey League. My guess is Elliot Freeman's probably making that comment, wondering if maybe Gavin McKenna takes advantage of the new NCAA rule and goes and plays college next year. That is a little bit of an older league. I mean, that's obviously an opportunity for him. I hope that he stays in the Western Hockey League. But he's like, if anybody who has a chance to actually see him play, it's in Calgary, I think the Hitmen and the Tigers will probably at some point play in the playoffs. Up here, I don't think Edmonton's going to play Medicine Hat in the first round,
Yeah,
but if you get a chance to see him play live, you got to go see him because he really is something special.
he is the real deal for sure.
Yeah.
Keaton Verhoff is another name too. I think he's got 15 or 16 goals, no power play time. I think he's related to the Dock family, Kirby and Colton Dock. So it's another good player over in the Western Hockey League too. Uh,
Yep.
Phil, your thoughts on kind of what we're seeing from some of these players too, and the McKennas, the Keaton Verhoffs of the world.
Yeah, I was actually at the last Oil King Medicine Hat Tigers game here in Edmonton, and old Gavin McKenna, he like snapped and broke his stick over a guy's chest. That was pretty entertaining. I think he got suspended for that too, didn't he?
Missed 2 games, right? I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways, but
yeah,
no, it's definitely like a treat. Like even like watching some of these kids in the WHL, like even like watching them in warm up, they're just like wowing the kids that are at the games watching. They're I don't know. It's like they make hockey look so easy at such like a young age, right?
yeah, they definitely do. All right, let's move over. Do a couple quick segment on minor hockey, and thanks to Sheena too. She will is sponsoring our minor hockey report, and their son Brody just finished up his Timbits year too. So keep an eye out for that kid in the future as well. He's a good little kid, and yeah, so these playoffs are going to be pretty fun. I know there's some good battles. I know it was probably an upset pack upsetting the Sherwood Park team in the U17 triples, and it was they lost their first game and Pack came back. I think they're one of their coaches tore his ACL or MCL coming off the bench last night, and their head coach took a puck to the head, and he's got a concussion. So it was sacrificing in every which way for that team and those players. But the playoff format and the matchups and the provincial looking is looking pretty good, Nick. And it is interesting to see also too at the U18 level, Sherwood Park upset. I don't know if it's an upset day against the Junior Oilers. Like that Sherwood Park team has been really really good, and the goaltending tandem that they have there too is really fun to see. Junior Oilers teams are really good. There's a lot of good skill at all levels, even down to the U13 level too. But where you at with minor hockey, Nick, in terms of what you're seeing out there? Is there some interesting matchups that you're looking forward to, and there's some good players that have kept that you're keeping a close eye on in terms of what they've been able to do so far this year?
Well, just in terms of the U18, I think the big upset was the Oilers Orange upsetting St. Albert.
Right.
Um, I went to game three the other night in Sherwood Park between Oilers Orange and Sherwood Park, and it was a pretty good game. Playoff, you can never beat playoff hockey. And actually tonight, so the league championship series is decided. The Calgary Flames. There was a Flames team that won tonight. It wasn't the NHL team.
Yeah.
The U18 AAA team, they knocked off the Calgary Buffaloes in 4 games. They won 6-1 tonight. So I believe that the Flames will have home ice advantage in the series against Sherwood Park, which should actually be a really good series. Sherwood Park is they play a smash mouth style of hockey. They're physical, they're hard, they really forecheck really well, and they have really good goaltending with between Rena Trimbecki and Connor Knorr. So it should be a really entertaining best of five final for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. I'll be out to at least one of the games that'll be in Sherwood Park. So,
What do you think of Trebecki and like what she's been able to do in terms of, a lot of people just saying she's a star in the rising here at her level at the age that she's playing and the way she's playing. I think she's had a pretty good year this entire season, and obviously that series itself was really good. Going into this final matchup, where are you at with what you've seen from her game in terms of where she's going to be able to go in the future here too?
you know what? I mean, she's a really good goalie. She put up really really good numbers this year, and I'm pretty sure I watched her. I think she was in the HSL in her, which would have been her Bantam draft year, which was a few years ago. She was playing for the Saints Pro Hockey Academy, and she was really good back then. She's the type of goaltender player I think that'll have a good chance if she doesn't have one already, getting a scholarship into the NCAA next year if she wants. And I mean, from there with the PWHL, they're looking for the best players for that league, and she could definitely be there one day, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely on the radar for sure. Phil, how was minor hockey for you? I know you took on a director's role this year, in terms of that and your experience. It was your first year doing it, and I know there's always the goods, the bad. There's some challenges there, but how was minor hockey in New Sarepta, and how in a whole, how did the New Sarepta program do this year?
It definitely had its ups and downs for sure. Some parent, there's I'm sure everybody listening who has kids in minor hockey, that there's people that volunteer and there's people that don't, and I understand both sides because, we definitely had our ups and downs. I can say right now, with our U18 program, we had to make some really hard decisions, where, kids had played together coming all the way through, and this year, for the first time ever, we had two U18 teams. And unfortunately, we had to split some of those third years up. And, but it turned out to be for the best for those families and those kids that, might be more skilled and might be a little better at you know. So anyways, that being said, we have our U18 one team they actually won over the weekend to go to provincials. So they're headed to provincials. Our U18 one team, I think our We had a couple, both of our U13 teams, they finished second this year. Both of our U11 teams finished second this year. Um, so, pretty successful year out in New Sarepta. Like, I find we always have like some pretty good skilled players in New Sarepta. So, yeah, I'd say it was a good year.
Yeah,
Pretty fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Fun to be around that group the other day there, and I think some of them are going to get a pretty cool experience on the 29th here. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun. Anything you guys want to add before we sign out, Nick?
No, just thanks for having me, and hopefully you'll have me back.
No, we'll definitely have you back. Definitely want to get you on with some of our guests as well too. So if that's something you're interested in, but definitely be awesome to kind of have your insight in terms of where the game is at and where it's trending. And Phil, you have anything to add before we sign out?
Yeah, I don't know if you'll have me back either. I feel a bit rusty after being off for a little bit
Oh
here.
no, you're good, buddy. You're good. Well, back in the saddle. We're having some fun. And yeah, no, it's been good. We appreciate everyone listening in and joining in, and yeah, we're definitely our 3 stars of the month program for minor hockey kids in Alberta is definitely going in a good direction here. So we appreciate everyone's support and the support we get from the NHL teams and the players itself too, and also the media members as well. So we're looking forward to that. And we got one more go around for this month, and then we go into the end of the season awards. So stay tuned to that. That's going to be pretty interesting to follow. I think there's 5 or 6 awards that are up for grabs, and we have 3 finalists for each award, and those will all be voted. So let's stay tuned to that. In the first week of April, we'll announce the finalists for each award, and then it'll be a 3-week voting period for who that will be, and looking forward to the fun and interesting times there. And it's all about giving back and getting to that community. I know some kids the other day were doing it, and it's cool to see that the U18 AAA players are signing autographs for kids at U11 and U9 as they come out and watch the future stars of the game, and interacting and connecting back into the community is always a fun thing to do. And these coaches, these organizations are doing a good job in teaching those fundamentals into the game as well. So thanks for everyone for tuning in and listening to the 2 Months podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up on that episode that you're watching, and stay tuned to our social media channels for some more updates. And thanks for everyone for your continued support. And we'll chat with you guys very, very soon. Have fun.